was the boogeyman.
As a matter of fact, it was.
What's going on, horror fanatics? Welcome to I Shot Him 6 Times YouTube horror movie channel. As you know, I'm your host and creator of the channel, Marcus, and in this video, I'm going to talk about Jamie Kennedy and Dermot Mulroney's interview from last week, where they discuss Scream 7 and other topics. They get on the topic of dead characters coming back into the Scream franchise, and after giving it some thought, I thought of a way how Scream 7 could go in this direction and give us an all-out legacy requel. If you haven't done so already, please shoot this video a like. It helps out with the YouTube algorithm a ton, as well as if you happen to be a new viewer to this channel, please shoot that subscribe button as well as that notification icon so you get all the latest content updates to the channel. Okay, so last week on Jamie Kennedy's podcast, hate to break it to you with Jamie Kennedy, he had Dermot Mulroney on his show where they would talk about Scream and other topics. They got on the topic of dead characters coming back into the Scream franchise, prompting Jamie Kennedy to say this.
What they did in 6.
And those are my niece and nephew.
That's incredible.
All I'm saying is they got stabbed a lot, and they lived, and I got stabbed a lot, and I'm dead.
Yeah.
I love you guys. Help me get back.
Okay, so as you heard, Jamie is referring to Chad and Mindy Meeks Martin, his character Randy Meeks' nephew and niece inside of the Scream franchise, and he points out how in both films, especially with Chad, the character gets stabbed a multiple amount of times to the point where he should be dead, only for creators to keep him alive and bring him back in future installments. Yet his character Randy gets stabbed multiple times in Scream 2, but is dead. That shows the glaring issue, in my opinion, between Wes Craven's first 4 Scream films and Radio Silence's last 2 Scream films with Scream 5 and Scream 6, is that Wes Craven had no issue killing off his likable main characters such as Randy Meeks, as to where Radio Silence does seem to have an issue killing off their likable main characters like Chad Meeks Martin, no matter how elaborate or brutal they present said characters' attacks to be. This is something we as fans have pointed out and disliked about the last 2 Scream films. We even had Dermot Mulroney poking fun at the prospect of his character, Wayne Bailey, returning in Scream 7 after what seemed to be a very definitive death for the character in Scream 6, thanks in large part to what was done over the last 2 films. We then hear Jamie say, "Help me get back." This is him implying that not only would he love to be back in the Scream franchise, but that he would most likely love to be a part of Scream 7. This is nothing new in terms of actors from the Scream franchise who has been a part of this franchise wanting to make a return. We all know that Matthew Lillard would love to return to the Scream franchise. Many fans want to see that. They believe that the Stu Macher character is still alive. I'm one of those people. Of course, we want to see Neve Campbell reprise her role as Sidney Prescott in this next film, being that especially she was not in Scream 6. We've even had Parker Posey from Scream 3, Drew Barrymore from the original Scream speak out about wanting to be a part of Scream again, so on and so forth. So this is nothing new in terms of actors that has been a part of the Scream franchise wanting to come back and make a return. Now, the big question is how do we bring Randy Meeks back into the Scream franchise and make it make sense? The reason why I say make it make sense is because we have to keep in mind, Randy was killed off in Scream 2. If we are going to continue on the original timeline that was set between Scream 1 and Scream 6 for Scream 7, Randy cannot come back because the character is dead in that timeline. However, I have stated before that in my opinion, I don't think for Scream 7 we can continue on the original timeline that was set between Scream 1 and Scream 6, being that the Carpenter sisters and the Core 4 with Chad and Mindy Meeks Martin, they are now a part of that original timeline. And if you are not going to have them a part of Scream 7, if they are not going to be in this movie, in my opinion, there's no way the movie would work because that would create too many plot holes. So again, the question is, how do we bring Randy Meeks back into the Scream franchise and make his return make sense? I think I may have the answer. Ever since Melissa Barrera was fired from Scream 7 and Jenna Ortega exited the project, I've been talking about what direction the Scream franchise could go in for Scream 7 in terms of storyline, timeline, etc. And I brought up the fact that you could possibly do a film set in between the events of Scream 3 and Scream 4. But now that I think about it, especially when you add in the fact that Randy Meeks would still be dead within that timeline, and you would just basically be still following in the original timeline, but just doing a lot of retconning, I don't know how well that would go over now that I think about it. Then I also talked about the new Nightmare concept from Wes Craven with Freddy Krueger, how you could make a reality-based Scream movie where we are following the actors instead of the characters that the actors play. This is a way that you could get Jamie Kennedy back into the Scream franchise. This is actually a concept that has been picking up a lot of steam over the last few weeks. I've been seeing the fandom talking about it, and a good portion of the fandom seems to be on board with this idea. And I'm not opposed to it either. I think it would be pretty cool. However, after rewatching this interview with Jamie and hearing how enthusiastic he sounds about being back in the Scream franchise, in my opinion, there is only one film and one direction that we could go in for Scream 7 in order to get not only Randy Meeks back, but have an all-out legacy cast for Scream 7. The film that Scream 7 could model itself after if creators wanted to go in this direction would be none other than Halloween H2O, Halloween 20 years later. Now, some of you ask, why would the new creators of Scream want to model Scream 7 after Halloween H2O? Well, there's a few reasons to this in my opinion. The first reason being is that it would be an ultimate homage, in my opinion, to Wes Craven, for the simple fact is that he modeled the Scream franchise off of what he's seen in Halloween, the original, what John Carpenter did with the Michael Myers character. We are all well aware that he was heavily inspired for the Scream franchise by Halloween. Halloween and Scream will forever be joined together and linked together forever in eternity. Like, that is in my opinion, Halloween is the most referenced movie in the Scream franchise. That's number one. Number two is that Halloween H2O, much like Scream 7 is going to be the 7th installment in the Scream franchise, Halloween H2O was the 7th installment in the Halloween franchise. So if you wanted to pay homage to the Halloween franchise, what better way to model your 7th film after that 7th film? That's just my take on that. But the most important reason why I believe Halloween H2O could and should be an inspiration for Scream 7, especially if you want an all-out legacy requel/sequel, whatever you want to call it, is because, and nobody talks about this, Halloween H2O was the first ever requel that we got in the horror genre, especially when it comes to our iconic horror franchises such as Halloween, such as Scream. Halloween H2O was the first movie to ever do it, as that film picked up 20 years after the events of the original film. Now, you're probably asking yourself, where are you going with this in regards to Scream 7? In 2026, Scream 1996 is going to be 30 years old. Why not go in the direction that Halloween H2O did and make an all-out legacy Scream film, picking up directly 30 years after the events of the original Scream movie? Now, I know some may not be keen on this idea. I understand a lot of us love the original timeline of Scream. It has a rich history. I get all that. But we are now we're in a different time with the Scream franchise right now because of what the studio has done. In my opinion, especially if you are a fan of the legacy characters, this may be the best option for Scream 7 to go in, because not only would you be basically doing basically be Scream 2 all over again, but a whole new Scream 2. But the best part about it is that you would be able to bring back characters such as Randy Meeks, Cotton Weary. You'd be able to bring back a good bit. You obviously would have Sidney back. You'd have Dewey back. You'd have Gale back. The original legacy stars that so many of us want to see come back into the franchise. If you go in this direction of setting the next Scream film 30 years after the events of the original, much like Halloween H2O did, and then subsequently what Halloween 2018 did, you could get all these legacy characters back that everybody wants to see one last time in this last film, especially if Scream 7, like they are talking about, is going to be the last film in the franchise. What better way than to go out than to do a direct sequel to the original, a direct requel to the original, taking place 30 years after the events of the original. I personally am not against this. And another reason why I think it could work is this. A lot of fans in the Halloween franchise with David Gordon Green's Halloween Kills, when we got all those legacy characters back, because you got to think in Halloween H2O, we got Jamie Lee Curtis back, we got Nancy Stevens back. Then obviously in 2018, we ended up getting Jamie Lee Curtis back. Nancy Stevens came back in Halloween Kills. We got Kyle Richards, who played Lindsay Wallace in the original Halloween. We had all these legacy characters come back for Halloween Kills. But the reason why fans were left disappointed is because a lot of those legacy characters who ended up coming back, they barely had any screen time. We barely got to know them again. This is something that the Scream franchise, in my opinion, with Scream 7, if they were to go in this direction, this is something that they can capitalize off of, because the one thing that Scream will always have over Halloween, in my opinion, is they have better characters. They have more characters that are more likable. So I feel like where Halloween Kills failed by bringing back all their legacy characters, Scream 7 could succeed by bringing back all their legacy characters. And the reason why I believe this is because Scream has always, for the most part, Scream 5 excluded, done a great job with character development consistency. So catching up with these characters after 30 years would be an interesting dynamic to watch play out in terms of seeing how each character ended up after the events of the original and how they are brought back together to battle Ghostface one last time. Another thing to take note of is that in Halloween H2O, the film pays homage to Scream as well, by showcasing Scream 2 on the TV screen in the girls' dorm room, as well as implementing some of the Scream 1996 score, as Marco Beltrami, who did the score for Scream, helped compose H2O's score as well. All in all, I believe if we want to see legacy characters, such as Randy Meeks' return in Scream 7, following the H2O formula of a direct sequel to the original would be the way to go, and would serve as an ultimate tribute to Wes Craven and the Scream and Halloween franchises. But okay everyone, that is it for this video. Leave a comment in the comment section below, and let me know what you think about Jamie's comments and his interview with Dermot. Would you like to see Jamie Kennedy return as Randy Meeks in Scream 7? As well as let me know, would you like to see Scream 7 adopt the Halloween H2O formula and make a direct sequel taking place 30 years after the original film? Once again, this is Asham 6 Times YouTube Horror Movie Channel. I'm your host and creator of the channel, Marcus. Be sure to follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Patreon. Thank you all for watching.